I swear, my phone is creepy, man. I like set it up to record a video, and it just took a photo of me while I was, well, not while I was inappropriate or something like that, but I was just sort of, well, if you want to know, I was putting on my little bangle because I was in a little bangle mood, and I was just like this, and I just heard. Whoosh. It's very unnerving. Makes me feel like, someone's in my phone, puppeteering it. And I'm already paranoid as it is about Google. You mention anything that you intensely don't like, the exposure to it, of which causes you crushing depression, and Google goes, I'll show him lots of that. It's the reason why they need to be, well, not, but, sort of, I don't mean like, I mean like, yes. Not that, but that. Reasoned with, sorted out, buggered. No, don't ever do that. So, hi everyone on YouTube, it's Giles here. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm extra fluffy at the moment. I got the urge to, hit record as soon as the photos snapped for no reason, because I had to tell you all about it. The problem with doing that and hitting record so hastily is that I haven't defluffed myself, which was next on the agenda before I actually hit record. But that said, I don't actually know how to defluff myself. Every now and then I sit down to make a YouTube video, I look in the screen and I'm like, it's been electrocuted again. I don't know, it's like I've just been mugged by a gang that they're like a peaceful gang. Like, they want to mug people, but they also don't want to hurt people. So instead of guns or knives or anything like that, they use balloons, and they just come up to me and go, and I'm like, no, stop it, no, here, take my wallet, no, please. And they're like, ha, sucker, and then they leave, and then I'm left like this. I feel like that's how it happens. It must be. It's the only logical explanation I can think of. Other than, I don't know, atmosphere, maybe. Maybe a bit like Monica in that Friends episode, you remember? When she goes to that getaway place. Why were they there again? No, let's work this out together. I think they were all there, weren't they? Including Paul Rudd. Jesus. So they were all there. It was an archaeological thing, wasn't it? It was a dinosaur thing. Something to do with Ross and Charlie. Charlie. I like Charlie. Anyway, so, what I wanted to talk about in this video, and I have no idea where we're going with this, it's something that's been on my mind, which is the whole sort of subject of introverted, extroverted, and ambiverted. I like that word, ambiverted. That's like, half in, half out, shake it all about. You do the sometimes in, sometimes out dance, and you turn around. That's what ambivert is all about. So, the thing I've found interesting where the subject of autism is concerned, drawing a parallel between that and introverted or outroverted, extroverted. There is that huge question of are you autistic or are you just introverted? And I don't think that that's entirely finite. I think there are a lot of people who are autistic who are extroverted, but I think a lot of people see introverted and see the equation between introverted and stereotypical autistic behaviour, and they go, well, then I do that. And I think it's an interesting thing to look up, because it is, I dare say, you could almost say it's one of those things you get or you don't, which that's that's not an awful lot of good, but unless you get it. But I mean, one thing I have sort of been navigating between since I'm sort of coming to terms with things that you would associate with autism that I myself have, I have found myself navigating around people that sort of go, that sort of embrace the barriers, because I don't like embracing the barriers. When I talk about things that I wished I could do, but have realised that something associated with autism has prevented me from doing it, that doesn't stop me from doing it. That makes me realise that I have to take a scenic route to get to it, or I have to apply a different degree of understanding, or a different I have to sort of like go, okay, so you can't, it goes right back to that analogy that I used in the very first video when I started talking about autism. You realise that everybody wants to get in the house, and they all use the same door to get through it, and you spend your life trying to get through that door that just evidently doesn't open for you, and then one day you see finite evidence that that door will not open for you, and the second you actually know that and actually digest that, then you consider going through the windows, or climbing in through the roof, or breaking into the basement, or going around, use another door. It's like you can get to the same place, you just have to take a different direction. That's why, like, I also say that it's not a excuse, it's an explanation, and I prefer to take it on board that way, because it makes demons a lot more manageable, and I think it was the previous video or the video before, there's that debate about what is social discomfort that's caused by trauma. Social phobia, for example, typically caused by trauma, and autism is not caused by trauma. So when you try to treat something that you could equate to nervousness as if it is a social phobia, when it is actually something mechanical with just the way your brain is built, then the method you take to alleviate that distress or discomfort isn't going to work. And this is why, when I reached the age I am at 36, it's such like a huge revelation for me, and it becomes like massively life-changing. And it's like this. It's when you look at it in retrospect, it feels like the smallest thing. It feels like it's like you've moved like a millimeter to like you've turned the steering wheel ever so slightly, and you've just suddenly found this whole other new direction, and it's hard to understand what the problem was before. You know what I mean? Like the remedy, the method of changing that direction so minimally is so minimal that you have a hard time registering that you did anything at all, and that makes it hard for you to realise what has changed, or what the problem was in the first place. The example I give it is going out to like the pubs and stuff like that. I've been out to a few more pubs since going down the rabbit hole of autism and reading up about it and how it equates to me, and getting help for it and all that stuff, and making videos on here where we'll talk about it on here. There's me like 2 weeks ago. I went to like one gig on a Sunday evening. I went to a gig. That, first of all, that's interesting. But then I come out of that gig, and I want to go to another one immediately afterwards. I'm literally like, there's noise coming from that pub over there. I want to go over there and see what that noise is. And historically, throughout my life, that is unheard of for me. That is so I can't describe it, because times in the past when I've gone into those places and I've been overwhelmed, or like I'm internally screaming, I don't know what's going on and I don't know what the problem is. So I'm just sort of like, well, just don't go there anymore and you don't have to worry about that. When in fact, now I can go to these places and I'm sort of like, okay, there are issues with autism. There are issues with sensory overload. There are issues with, I think sensory overload covers a lot of it. But there are a lot of social issues that can be equated to autism. There's a lot of the issues that I've experienced, and that gives me a little bit more patience with myself when I'm in these places, and it doesn't make it go away. It makes it more manageable. I went to the open mic yesterday. Yesterday, I didn't drink that much, I was like taking photos of like the performers as they were up, and again, that's another thing that is very unusual for me. I'm like, I don't want to do this. People might look at me taking photos. But I did it like once or twice, and it just sort of felt natural, so I sort of kept doing it. But I sort of noticed, this is my third time at that same pub, and I noticed it's gonna sound weird, I had an easier time looking back at all the people in the pub, because usually, like the first week I came in there, I take my seat right by the stage, because I've got Dan and his friend Steve, who run the open mic. They're the guys I know, and so I sit right at the front because I know they're right at the front, and I'm like tunnel vision, I'm like, look at the stage. This is what everybody is looking at, so it's all right. And if you're socially concerned and you're worried about staring at anyone, stare at the person on the stage. They are on a stage. In fact, if you don't stare at them, one could consider it rude. So, what a great way to really stretch the whole staring muscles. So, I could fixate on who's on the stage, but every now and then I'd look over my shoulder and look back towards the pub, and like see the amount of audience members amounting, so it's like, look back at the stage, and if I can't see them, they're not there. And that's gone away as the weeks have gone by, but it's still very apparent in my head that it is because it's the same place. And when I look back and I see all the people behind me, there are more faces that I recognise, like people that have been up on the stage, or like people that I just recognise from the previous times I've been there, and although that's good, I still sort of, I'm working on attending another open mic, so I'll be going to 2 a week, and possibly more. I do like the idea of actually filling up my evenings, which is massively unheard of for me. And this is all off of the back of what we've been talking about on this channel. It's all off the back of it's crazy just realizing one or two little things, and suddenly you're happy to drive in a completely different direction. Like I can't follow that analogy. I can't drive recklessly. I still have to be a little bit self-aware of what the issues are. I'm seeing Praying Mantis at the end of the month, and I think my friend Dan's going with me, and I think we're going to just be in the seating area. It's a small pub. We're just going to sit down, and that's one of the things that's been going about in my head. I'm like, could I actually be in the crowd? Like with things, you know, being different than what they are, could I actually be in the crowd? And it's hard to tell, and it's one of those sort of. It's one of those bears I don't know if I want to poke. You know, go a little bit slower, you know. Oh dear. But you know, it's gotten me thinking about this whole balance between introverted and extroverted. But I think though those words, they are often sort of taken to mean what somebody wants them to mean, you know. Like, I think there are introverts that like going out, and there's extroverts that like a night in, and sometimes when you consider that, the more you think about it, the dafter those phrases become. But you can get why they're geared, why we have them. They're to give us a rough estimate. You know, it's kind of how I feel about sexuality. I know not a lot of people are on board with this. Like, I always see sexuality on a spectrum. I don't think you're a this, you're a that, you're a this. It's a very broad spectrum, and it just depends. We use those words to try and hone in on what you like the most. But yeah, I think the thing that intrigues me is that sometimes. Well, I say sometimes. I've known a lot of people in my life who say they don't like going out and say they don't like going places, but do you know? I really don't know how to word this. Some people express things like that, but you can see right through them. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people will say, you know, like they'll say they don't want to go somewhere, you know, because it's people. I don't like people. But like the second they've got some kind of safety feature in place, they're like, let's go, and then they don't just go, they like go too hard. You know what I mean? Like they like. It's like they break through their denial and give themselves alcohol poisoning, you know, or like snort so much coke that their brain turns into a snow globe. You know, like it's like a coiled spring just going off, and it's this difficult because that's been one of the things when I talk about autism, and I talk about how, you know, my experience with it and how it affects how I deal with the world. It's I find there's a good couple of people that sort of will be like, oh yeah, that's just like me, fuck people, right? And I'm like, well, no, like I've like fought my life to be with people. You know, you know, it's like I don't you know, but then I have to sort of think, well, maybe, you know, there are times before I wanted to sort of acknowledge it, because like I said, you know, this recent revelation of me examining it, this is not the first time somebody has mentioned autism to me. People have suggested autism to me several times throughout my life, and I'm like, no. you can't catch me, no. And but I think there is a chance. I mean, the thing is, I do have to weigh certain things out, like the pubs I've been going to recently are, it's going to sound really judgmental, I would say they are a distinctly different caliber of pub to the pubs that friends I've been with before have wanted to go to. For example, I'm not going to mention the businesses directly, but nightclubs, for example. If a nightclub was like nightclubs of ye old, I would totally be there. I'd be there playing the jazz flute. But They are not. Nightclubs of the modern day have sucked big fat Donkey Kong for like 30, 40 years. And I would rather be dead than down there. You know, that's the place where you go to either get laid or show off who you're laying, and then your partner cheats on you. Oh my god, how did that happen? Oh wow, you know, fuck those places. You know, like that's what I'm like. I'm all right with not being comfortable going down there. I'm literally like, you can all just shag and shoot each other to death all you want. Just stay the fuck away from me, you know. And but then, so those are the nightclubs. But then you get like the pubs. You get like the I am yet to, you know how I invent like some kind of horrible phrase to describe a lot of things I don't like. I'm yet to invent the phrase for this. But you know, like the let's call them the 16 and under pubs that like everybody seems to get in, no matter how old you are. You go in there and there's like a 15 like an 11-year-old with a pint in his hand going, all right, mate. You know, you're just like, how did you even happen? You know, this is stupid. Just fuck off. But like, you usually get they're like populated by like 12-year-olds to 16-year-olds with the occasional 40-year-old who hates themselves, you know, or 40-year-old who really likes the idea of prison very soon. Like actually, that literally happened to like there was like one pub in Hastings that was like you know populated by you know infants who like to rock, and they got like busted. There was like a drug den upstairs, and like a drug den serving children. Like it's like they're going for like the criminal high score, you know. There's a police burst in and found some firearms, you know, an underage hooker and some diamonds heisted from a jewelry store or something, they'd just be like, well, what crime have you done? Yes. But kind of supports my feelings about not liking places like that. But like there was like a good couple of them in Hastings and St Leonard's. But like people always want to go there, and I like pubs. I like, you know, I mean, I'm not saying like it has to be like rusted, old-fashioned, you know, old Poppin' and Oak, mysterious brass ornaments hanging on the walls kind of pub with vintage Guinness posters. But it doesn't have to be that pubic. It can be, you know, just not a fucking hole. Like, just not shit. I don't think it's too much to ask, is it? But I think it's because I think it's fair to say that like when you know when like a bar, I guess I would use the term dive, but even dive has got more class than some of these horrible little kid bars. You know, at least in a dive bar, you can complain about your bills, and everybody like goes, "Oh yeah, fucking bills. Yeah, we all know those." You know, one of these 16-year-old bars, you go in there, complain about your bills, and they look at you like you're an alien from the planet doesn't exist. You know, that's a terrible planet to come from. Nobody believes you. There's a place near here called Who. Worst place in the world. Who. And I met a girl in a very loud club who was from Who. This was years ago. But really loud club. Bear in mind, I'm already overloaded. I can't hear shit. Even if you turn the music off, I'm still deaf as a post. And she's just sitting there going, Who? I'm like, where from? Who? What? Who? Where? Like, it was like, but that's her life. She's got to live that. Like, wherever she goes, whatever she does, if it's not in Who, people are going to ask her where she comes from. you know. And I thought it was bad being from St Leonard's because nobody knows what St Leonard's is. You ask me where you're from, I just say Hastings because, you know, I mean, St Leonard's is like the dingleberry that came out of Hastings, you know, so they get it. But I just I've said this before. St Leonard's was supposed to be the nice place for all the snobby Hastings people to go once upon a time, but as Hastings became more hip and happening, St Leonard's went mouldy. But yes, the hell am I talking about? Introverted, extroverted. Yes, because some people like so I think like I've never liked the whole you know, fuck people attitude. I really haven't, and I it's nice to finally understand why, because I'll be like, man, if you hate this and you hate that, you hate going there and you don't want to do this and this annoys you and that, fuck this, fuck that, fuck everyone, then how come you don't hate people and you still, I mean, people don't like it, but, you know, I do believe in the goodness of mankind. I really do. So, so I'm sitting there going throughout my life with like hating pretty much everything. And then I'm still sitting there going, no, but people are still basically all right, you know. And it's difficult because through these means I've made a lot of friends that let the dark thoughts win. You know, that like it's like I'll express something cynical and then they'll express something so immensely hateful, and I'm like, I don't think we are gelling as much as you would hope we are gelling, you know. But I don't know. It's difficult, you know. I think it's odd because I moan about a lot of stuff, but I still consider myself a positive person, and that kind of it can twist your brain upside down when you hear what I joke about on a daily basis. You know, like I can be very cynical, but at the same time, I'm sort of like I still believe in the goodness of people. So. Why? Just be a bottle. Be a bottle. But yes, but I mean, obviously, I feel like this is sort of helped me return. And that's another thing I find interesting. I keep using the word return, like return. I'm coming back. I'm re-Gilesinating, you know. But that's kind of weird because that goes back to what I said in the first video. Like, I feel like I'm coming out of stasis. I feel like since the age of like 15, something like that, mid-teens. Because I would say a little bit later than that. It's when I genuinely had to start functioning in the world. You know, I think if you have if you're anywhere on the spectrum, or if you have any of autism's four horsemen, I think you, it gets tested the most when you have to work or, you know, get your own place or stuff like that. You face bills and stuff like that. I feel like that's when it properly gets the weight of the world on it, and if you're not aware of it, you run the risk of getting crushed by it. And I think that's exactly what happened to me. And I think that's probably why, you know, I feel so good, understanding it now. And it's like I don't want to mourn the past or anything like that and go, oh, I lost all this time. I'm literally like, well, who cares whether you lost it or not? Like we're here now, so keep going, you know. And besides, I don't believe in wasted time. I just don't. I know it sounds weird. I think if you've had like years of wastefulness, or you feel it's wasteful, there's always a way to make it work for you, because in some way it's accumulated knowledge. You know, if I was to word it in like the most horrible, harshest way possible, and I said that I failed for 20 years, then I can be like, well, Well, in that case, you're like an expert at failing, so you know how not to fail. Or you might not know what to do, but you know what to not do, and that's something to pass on. You know, that's something to you go. People, listen to me. I used to suck too once. You know, and again, I'm wording it harshly for example's sake. But you know, on some days I can feel like that, but it still picks me up to know that I could use it in some way. You know, that it makes it not a waste. I don't see any point in crying over things that you can do absolutely nothing about. You know, there's no point. But yes, I'm sorry. I think this video roughly discussed what I wanted to discuss, but I also kind of had to generally touch base with this subject. And I think there may be more videos like this because the diagnosis is taking so bloody long. And I feel like the connection to this as a subject, I need to keep it up. And, you know, it's a side rant, you know, when your diagnosis for or evaluation for this sort of thing takes years, and it can be hard to stay connected with it because, you know, so much of my life people have suggested that I'm autistic, and I bat it away because I'm literally like, no, I just go back to, you know, I just keep. I mean, it's like you're forcibly hyper-focusing, masking, which is horrific, especially when you start stimming because you just go fucking berserk from time to time. But you know, and this is something that I've got to be aware of on an almost daily basis. And the longer it takes to actually get it authenticated, as it were, it can fray my connection with the subject. I am kind of glad I got YouTube, because the problem is, you know, like I know a lot of people that a lot of people who are autistic. I don't know a lot of people that like talking about autism though. It's it's all well and good for them, isn't it? Anyway, thanks very much for watching this video, and do comment and subscribe. I don't usually say that, do I? But I will now, because I like people and I want more of them. So remember to comment and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys very soon. See you later.